host. Here we are. Yay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Courtside with Lawman and Carmen B. Ready to talk about it?
Let's talk about things.
Before we do that, let us just start by saying you can call in. You can leave questions in the chat. You can email questions to us that we can answer live for you on air. But we would like to state that this program is for informational and educational purposes. It does not establish an attorney-client relationship between anyone who sends us a question that we answer and myself or Mr. Staten.
There you go. All right. So once again, here we are. This is our third or fourth week or so, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And we've been talking a lot, and we deal with a lot about police stops and what you should and should not do. And now the protocol, just to remind everybody, the protocol is very simple. You only need to know 5 words, right, Carm?
That's correct.
And what are those words?
Am I free to leave?
Now, the reason I say those words, well, why can't I argue with the cop? Why can't I say, wait a minute, how come you didn't, what did you pull me over for?
The problem with arguing with the cop is it just engages you in a discussion that's not necessary. And that discussion could lead to you basically waiving other rights that you have. And that is a right not to make a statement. And a lot of times people think that a statement means it's a result of the officer asking you questions. But if you're just saying things to the officer, that is considered a statement and that could potentially be used against you. Rather become engaged in that back and forth, which really, if you're having a interaction with an officer who's already irritated and looking for a reason to have this go physical, that back and forth discussion is just going to elevate and give him what he wants. And we don't want that. We want you to be able to make it through these interactions alive and then let the attorneys do their work after. If it's a civil case for a violation of your civil rights, or if it results in a criminal case and there's been a violation of your rights in that regard, let the attorneys have it. But we want you to make it through these interactions alive.
And what we're talking about is this First Amendment right to free speech. You can talk all you want. And when cops come to a scene or anywhere, it's going to be considered consensual first, unless you change the dynamics of the conversation. So when you do that, you'll say those 5 words. Am I free to leave? Now, we always see situations where it may be obvious that a person is not free to leave, held at gunpoint, maybe pulled over by a vehicle. But the point is, even conversations under those situations are consensual and can be used against you and can escalate the situation. So it's just easier to clear the air. Am I free to leave? Because you're putting it out there that the cop has to make a decision. Are you detained under the Fourth Amendment or are you free? Now,
and again, if you're free to leave, leave that situation.
That's right. Now, something's going to happen at that point. Cop's going to say, hey, no, I'm going to write a ticket. I've been chasing you. You did this. You did that. That's not the time to fight your case. You're not the litigator. So that is not the courtroom. So you don't want to fight your case there. What you should do is think to yourself, am I free to go? And if you are not, believe it or not, that's a safe position to be in, because now you know the parameters in which you're playing.
Now, sometimes Lawman and I disagree on things, and this is one of them.
Disagree.
I'm never gonna describe that situation as a safe place to be, because we've seen how quickly officers and just the situation itself can turn around and result in someone losing their life. So I don't know that I'm ever going to describe being detained by law enforcement, even when you know that you've said those magic words and they've said, yes, stay where you are. So you know that you are detained. I'm never going to describe that as a safe place to be. That's a place where it's a very uncomfortable place to be. And even for those of us who are well aware of our rights, it's still a very uh, a situation that causes you to be nervous because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what's in the officer's mind. You don't know what he's investigating, if anything.
Now, since the way it works is you say something, I say something, that's litigation. Now, here's how I'm going to respond: by the safe place to be in. Safe meaning your constitutional rights are now kicking in. And at least you're defining the conversation so that you can move to that next level. Because, of course, they're going to say no. They're going to make it up most of the time, right? And just say, no, you're not free to leave for anything. And what do they try to do? They try to say, I'm investigating something, or somebody got called. You got, you
Or
mentioned or something.
we got a call, and then
Yeah.
that's the description.
Or strange person sitting in car on the side of a street, parked illegally, which, people can do that, but you might get called in. You might even be barbecuing with your friends, and they don't want you at the park.
Well, one of the things that I would note, again, going back to your description of it as a safe situation, it has only been recently, with the advent of people having cell phones and knowing that they can constitutionally, that they have a right, as long as they are not interfering with the officer, to record these interactions. The body cameras, although we have to rely on the officers to turn those body cameras on and not turn them off. Those types of recordings let us know what really happened during that interaction. If those recordings don't exist, it becomes your word versus the officer's word about what you said or did not say. So again, I have to disagree with it ever being a safe place.
And like I said, just safe in that you've exercised your rights, you see. So, because most of the time, people don't even get past that point. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, they cannot shut up at a scene. They got to know, did you pull me over because I was black? That's a funny question too, Carm. Because in a way, why would you ask that question? I mean, just if you thought that, why did you ask the person that?
I think sometimes people, aren't really thinking through, and they're wondering, maybe the officer will say, yeah, that's the reason I pulled you
I
over.
know, huh?
But it is extremely rare that the officer, even if that is the only reason that he pulled you over, is going to tell you that that's the reason that he pulled you over, because he knows it would be illegal to pull you over because you were driving while black or walking
in a
while
neighborhood
black,
or doing
in a
anything.
neighborhood that he felt you shouldn't be in while black.
Right. And so that's why it 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 rubs me when people are asking that of the cop, because it's kind of a rhetorical question in a way too, because they don't have to tell you. They don't have to inform you of why they are investigating or what they're investigating about. That's why I think always under situations you got to stay silent, and that Fifth Amendment helps us with that one.
And that is the best thing to do. Again, ask that question. And we're going to reiterate that probably almost every time that you see us,
Yes.
because we want people to start exercising that right. The purpose of that is to find out if you're detained. If you are being detained, again, your name and your identification. Provide that, and you don't need to say or provide anything else.
And I'll tell you something. When I give my lectures, I term this whole process as the exercise. You see, as a process, because imagine this, and I always would explain: if you want your muscles to grow, if you want your muscles to be toned, what would you do? Exercise, right? Now, I want my muscles to be toned when I'm out at the scene with a cop. I want to be in top shape at that particular time. So I know I must exercise my right, because we believe that all of a sudden, I guess, rose petals are going to fall out of the air, and the rights constitution fairy is going to come down and go, hello, officers, stop messing with those people. They have rights. because it's not going to happen that way.
No, you
Right.
have to exercise those rights, and
You
you
have
have
to.
to exercise them in a
Calmly.
fashion
Yep.
that is going to be most helpful to you.
Yes.
And
Calm.
so, correct.
Yeah.
And as Lawman stated, um, you want to make sure that even though you may say, I have a right to free speech, so I can say whatever I want. That is true. But you also have a right to remain silent. And that's the right that you should be exercising when you are being detained, contacted by law enforcement.
And question. Because there are some questions when you're not in custody, they can keep talking to you. And you have to establish that somehow, but you're not going to because you are not in custody. I've seen where cops will bring you to the station, they'll put you in a room, but they'll leave the door open. And they'll say, well, hey, you can leave at any time. Now, you came all the way down there, you went all the way in that room just to turn around and walk out. See, the cop knows you're not going to turn around and walk out because you are more interested in what he is saying to you than for him to be interested in you.
Or correct. And what you really want to know is, well, why did they bring me down here? Right. And so you stay there to find that out. But the problem with that is once he starts to tell you
Yes.
why you are there, right? You're going to start talking and then it's going to be a back and forth. And again, some people think, well, I can just, if I didn't do anything wrong,
Wrong.
I can just tell the truth and then they'll let me go. Now we know that that is not always
That was
true,
true. It's
right?
true. It's true.
And we know for a fact that there are numerous people. And
Yeah.
people may also think, well, I didn't do anything wrong. So I can give a statement and then at trial, the jury will see that I didn't do anything wrong and I'll be acquitted. They'll find me not guilty. But we know that there are innocent people who didn't do anything wrong, but who were convicted and sentenced to prison. And I believe the longest one that I've heard of, I think he did 40 years in prison for a crime that he did not commit.
Yeah.
So we're telling you these things for your own good, that you exercise these rights that you have, but in this particular fashion. Yes, you have a right to free speech, and we want you to utilize that right in appropriate situations. If you're protesting, yes.
Assembly is fine.
If you are
Church and religion, serving your God.
yes, if you are writing an article, exercise that right to free speech.
True.
But when you are being detained by law enforcement, that is not the time. That is the time to ask, am I being detained? I'm sorry, am I free to leave? That's the easiest way to say it. Am I free to leave? And then if you're not free to leave, provide your name, provide your information.
That's
By
it.
information, I mean your identification,
Yeah.
which has your ID, driver's license,
Sure.
your ID number on it. And that is it.
And you know what? When you talk about free speech, I see a lot of people, they're cussing the cop out. I mean, they're just, you bastard, you this, you that, they're just going at it. And once again, free speech, right? But does it ever lead to anything good? Because as you're behaving that way, you're probably missing something that you should be watching when you're fighting and arguing with them, especially cussing them out and calling them names and stuff.
Now, there are some people, lawmen, who will say, well, I cussed the cop out and then the cop let me go. So cussing them out does work. What would you say to that?
I would say you're probably wrong because they did not have reasonable suspicion to stop you. And you're cussing out. They're imagine. I think they'd be used to that by now. Of our profession, I guess, but I think they'd be very used to people being angry and cussing them out. So that means nothing to them.
Well, I wouldn't say that because you run into the wrong cop on the wrong day and you're cussing him out may get him to get physical with you. And of course, again, if he doesn't have a body camera, if somebody doesn't happen to be there recording with their cell phone when that story is told, it's that you're the person who became physical. So in these circumstances, like Lawman said, you want to remain calm.
Yes.
Now, I do see we have a question in the chat. from Borkai, asking, will this be the time to ask for counsel?
Ah, perfect timing. Because right when the cop tells you you're not free to go, that's when you want counsel. At that particular point, I want my attorney. You're not ambiguous. You're not unsure. You're not asking a question.
Should I have an attorney?
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't
you
want to
want
ask
your
it
attorney.
that way because now you're leaving it up to the cop. Well,
That's right.
I don't know. You don't need an attorney to talk to me. I just want to ask you a few questions.
That's
There
right.
was a robbery that occurred over here, and you just kind of look similar to the description that we have. We just want to figure out where you're going and where have you been.
Right. And so that's not the time to start engaging in conversation because the magical words are, I want my attorney.
And
They can't question you after you say that.
well, I'm gonna disagree with lawman right there because we have to talk about that is true. Legally, they are not supposed to continue to question you
That's
if
right.
you have asserted that right. But in reality, what we know happens is someone will say, well, I want my attorney. And the officer will say, well, you don't need an attorney. You're not even under arrest yet. I'm really just trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, we can work this out without you getting an attorney because if I can figure everything out, I can let you go. If you want an attorney, then now we got to go downtown and you're going to be arrested.
But here's the thing. That situation may be when you're not in custody. See, because if you're in custody and you ask for your lawyer, they must stop then. Now, I understand at the street corner, you're battling with them and, well, I want an attorney and stuff. And you haul off and say that, and they'll go, well, you're not even in custody yet. Because you got to have that in custody part to stop them from interrogating you.
But in custody, if you are detained, you can ask for your attorney because
Right.
that is a form of custody. If
Yes.
if the officers have handcuffed you, if they have told
Yes.
you that you are not free to leave,
Right.
you can ask for your attorney. And that may not in reality shut the officer down from asking you questions, but then you just repeat that without answering
Right.
anything that the officer is asking you. And so, for example, you look, I'm going to play the role of cop and have Mr. Staten play the role of suspect.
Am I me or a suspect? All right, I'm suspect. I don't know nothing. All right, here we go.
So, I just need to know where you're coming from. Hey, can you come here for a minute?
You know what? Why are you messing with me?
I need you to stop right where you
Yeah,
are.
I don't want you to touch me or be near me.
I need you to stop where you are because I need to talk to you. Where have you been?
Look, why I gotta answer questions? Why did you come at me?
Because you look like a suspect in a robbery that happened around the corner.
Well, I didn't do no robbery.
Well, I don't know that. That's what I'm trying to
But
figure
you
out.
should know that. Where's your paperwork and stuff? They should tell you who did the robbery, right?
Well, what I'm gonna have you do is have a seat on the curb.
Why I gotta go sit on the curb?
I've explained to you, and I'm not going to explain to you further. What I can do is just put you in the back of my patrol car.
Well, you're going to have to put me in the back of the patrol car because I ain't sitting on no curb.
And then there starts the grabbing and the physical part that we want to try to avoid.
Right. And if they want to put you in the backseat of the car, I will tell you that is in custody.
That clearly is in custody.
And the reason is because even if the officer tells you to leave, you can't leave. You see, that's when you know you're in custody. That's why that door being open in that interview room, being in the back of a police car, because the doors they usually just lock, so you're not getting out of that sucker, and they'll probably have you cuffed. So it will become apparent that you're in custody. And even at that point, you should still be repeating that one phrase, I want my lawyer.
And that's the only thing that you should be saying.
Right. Not I want my mama, not let me call my wife, my friends.
And should they allow you to call your mother, your friends, your wife, please know that you are being recorded. If you're in the police car, the police cars have in-car cameras that are recording your conversation. So that is not the time to call your mother and start talking to her about why you've been detained or why you think you've been detained or why you were there or where you have been or where you were going.
Exactly.
That's not the time for that conversation.
It's Yeah. I mean, keep going. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to say the same if you are in the interrogation room. The interrogation rooms are recorded audio and video.
Video.
If they bring you your cell phone and say, yes, you can call your family member, I'll leave the room so you can make that call privately. Please understand that that call is in no way, shape, or form private. The entire interaction is being recorded.
Right. And it's just a way of getting people to say something because they are panicked. It's been a bad day. I'm sitting down here with the cops. I don't know if I'm going to go to jail or not. And so some of the first things you do is you'll tell people where to hide things and what happened. Oh, they didn't catch Billy though. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to engage in any kind of dialogue, even with yourself. I mean, most of our cases, if there's cases where it's more than one person, so it may be a gang case, but it's a group of people that have been picked up. They will take you to the station. They will put you in different rooms down a hallway where there's a glass so I can see who's walking by. And they'll start walking each the by their friends, and they'll bring them back and stuff, and they'll walk them by again, and you're sitting there wondering, well, why is he getting up and going, all those times? And then they'll come in and throw good pop, bad cop on you right quick. Every one person comes in, just need to tell you this, tell you that, tell you that. And then, well, you're going to be on a cooperative. All right, all right. And they'll leave. And then someone, hi, would you like a Pepsi? Would you like to use the bathroom or something? You see, and they're going to be asking those innocuous questions. Now, they got to escort you probably if you're in custody, right?
They do.
So while you're doing the bathroom, while you're smoking a cigarette, doing something, they're going to be standing right there and they may make small talk. They may think, oh, so what's happening tonight, man? What's going on with you, man?
Yeah, we'd like to try and get you out of here. I mean, I've been up
You seem
late.
like an up straight guy. You seem like a nice guy. Come on, I know this isn't, you're not used to this.
If you just tell us what's going on, this can be over quickly. You can probably be back home and in your bed.
I love the ones when they're interrogating and they always say, it was someone else, wasn't it? It was them, wasn't it? And they did it, didn't they? And you can just see the person feeding off of it. Yeah, it was. And you didn't do anything, did you? No, it was the other person. And they're just picking your brain. They're just seeing what you're going to do. And you have just lied, literally, right? I mean, you're lying. And that is what's going to come back and bite you later. Because if you are lying to them at any point, it's kind of hard to explain to a jury why you would do that.
And it will be used against you.
Yes.
So it may be that you told the lie just because you wanted them to leave you alone, but they will use that during trial to attack your credibility and say this is someone who lies because he lied when he was speaking with the officer.
Right.
So rather than tell a lie, the best thing to do, say nothing other than I want my attorney.
Exactly.
Don't give your alibi.
Right.
You save your alibi for telling me or lawman
Yeah.
when you come into our office and you can speak with us confidentially.
Right.
There's no reason to give your alibi to the officer because the officer really is not trying to clear your name. He's trying to clear his caseload. And if he can clear that with this arrest of you, that's what he's going to do.
And I'll tell you something about this alibi, right? And telling your story and what happened. When you get to a jail facility, you're probably going to be nervous. Okay, I'm gonna grant that you're nervous about what would happen, and so you want to what? Tell a loved one what happened. You can't wait to talk to a loved one.
Oh, the free calls in the booking.
Yeah. So when you got to remember, anything inside the facility is probably going to be recorded, and believe it or not, the phone calls are recorded. Everything's recorded.
Now, lawman, those calls say this call may be recorded. What do we know about that?
They are recorded first. Everything is recorded. Just download it. Then when they need it, they can go back and get it per the X reference number that's put in.
Oh, and that's in Sacramento County. Yeah. They use a system that uses X reference numbers for the people that are in custody.
Right.
But I will say this. I have known people who think, well, I'm going to outsmart this system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the X reference number of my buddy or of my cellmate.
I'm gonna make up more.
Well, in addition to, I think the XREF is with an account. So
Oh,
if you make up one, unless it belongs to an actual person, it probably won't work for you to make your phone
yeah,
call. But let's say you use your buddy's X reference or just some other guy that you
yeah.
know
Who's
is in
in jail
custody.
at that time? Right. Exactly.
That doesn't work. Um, I'm what I believe is going on is that when they allow people in custody to utilize the phones, they are out also watching what
No,
phone
yeah.
that particular person uses. And so there are other ways other than the XREF that
Right.
they can associate who's actually making that call. And I know this for a fact because
Yeah.
I had a client who called me utilizing someone else's X reference number, and the district attorney pulled that call, and that call was on the list with all of the other calls that that person had made utilizing their own X reference number.
Yeah.
So we don't need you trying to outsmart the systems that they have in place. What we need you to do is to follow these
Yeah.
tips that we are giving you about the law that actually helps you to protect yourself.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's all about, really. Is you want to live first, and then live to tell later. So there are so many ways that things can happen to you, and you start talking. Um, a lot of conversations are with your loved one, your mom or something, and they go, "Oh, baby, what did you do? Oh, oh, tell me what happened though, and you're like, oh man, here's what happened, ma, and you want to pacify her.
And sometimes you may not even be telling your mother the
The
truth,
truth,
right?
right?
You're just telling her, what you want her to hear at that time.
Yeah,
But that's being recorded. And so when whatever your defense is, that you establish with your attorney, if it is controverted by
right.
that statement that you made to your mother, believe that that conversation with your mother will be used to impeach your credibility.
Yeah.
To say, well, he's telling you this story now, but listen to what he told his mom about what happened.
He wouldn't lie to his mom, would he?
And
Yeah, yeah. You see that happen. I mean, that happens. It actually happens a lot.
quite
It does.
quite a bit. And we
Yeah.
realize that it is difficult when you're in custody and you're waiting for your court appearances, you're waiting for a confidential visit with your attorney. It is extremely difficult to not want to talk about your case. Please
Yeah.
know we understand that desire to want to talk about why you are there in custody, but you should not do it.
Absolutely.
You should not do it. Even if you think that you are saying something that helps your case. Like, you know what? I wasn't there. I was with Tony. Tony can confirm that I was with him. Mom, you know Tony. And next
Yeah.
thing you know, maybe Tony is paid a visit by law enforcement.
Before mom gets to him.
And now Tony doesn't want to have anything to do with saying anything in your case.
Yeah, Tony got a warrant.
Or, or Tony has children and there
Yeah,
were
he's like, I'm not getting taken down.
thinly veiled threats made against his children,
Right.
such as, do we need to call CPS? Your
Right.
house isn't that clean.
Right.
So it doesn't always have to be direct threats. And what you're saying doesn't always have to be something that is directly against you.
Right. Or admitting a crime.
Yes.
See, you see people with confessions versus admissions, right, Carmen? That's
Yes.
a confession is I did do a crime. An admission is I'm telling you facts that you will use to put together to say I did the crime. So an admission could just be I was at Kmart at 2:00 yesterday.
And the crime happened at Kmart.
At 2:00.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of putting yourself in places when you're guessing. See.
And when you're speaking with your family and or they're visiting with you, that's the time to talk about anything else.
Yeah.
But nothing related to your case.
Right.
Talk about your plans for the future. Talk about what you want to do when you get out of custody.
Yeah.
Talk about relatives. Talk about your favorite television show. Talk about your favorite sport. Talk about your last vacation. Talk
Yeah.
about a vacation you want to take. Talk about your educational goals. Talk about your career goals. Talk about how you're being treated in there, in terms of, whether or not whether or not you have the items that you need.
Right.
But don't talk about your case.
Case. And that's true. I mean, you can tell them all about us. You can tell them these great lawyers are in town. Hey, but really, you got to be careful, because what we see are not people who are going, "Oh, I did the crime," or anything like that. I mean, sometimes it can be hiding something, or hey, go get something from some place. And I mean, I have seen people are being monitored. So when they do go to a phone, there's a deputy who is actually listening to what they're trying to say. And that person, and you don't know you're flagged, but you're flagged because the DAs want information. They want to know something.
Well, whether you're flagged or not, every single phone
It's
call,
recorded.
every single visit is recorded.
True.
And you need to know that and be aware of that. Now, sometimes people think, well, I'm going to outsmart the system and I'm going to say things
Code.
that, I'm going to speak in code, or I'm going to say things that I think can help my case.
Right.
We don't need you doing that. That's
Right.
not the thing that you should be doing, because sometimes you don't know what's going to help or hurt your case or
Okay.
being used against you. And so, again, we cannot state it
Yep.
strongly enough. You should not be discussing anything about why you were in custody, what your alibi is, what
Yep.
your defense is when you're in jail on
Yeah.
those recorded calls and visits. There's
Yeah.
another question in the chat. It says, we have a strong tendency to talk too much. Always want to let others know how smart we are. What percentage of your clients would you say talked too much?
80. Almost everyone. Well, look, there are some people. What I have seen, okay, and this is, I guess, what perturbs me most. If you've been to prison 3-4 times, you've picked up cases for years. You've gone. I mean, you've been arrested 15, 20 times. Now, that's a 30, 40-year-old man or woman. They're not old. They're not young. But they've had this great experience of going to jail many times. And believe me, every single time there's that opportunity to talk, there's an opportunity to make phone calls and say something. And when those people are talking about their cases, the first thing they get in is talk about the case. I often wonder, you know, what do you want? What do you want to happen? Because you've been there before. So you probably had your statements on the report. You've read them. You know what they say. They may have been used against you in a trial. Because if you said something, it would be used against you. And you would think that, and I'm not saying go commit another crime, but I'm just saying if you find yourself in that situation again, you should know more than anyone how to react. I mean, throw me in the water with sharks. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
So you're saying for someone who's arrested and it's their very first time in that situation,
You're in with the shark.
They don't know what to do. And
That's right.
one of the reasons, again, that
Again,
we're
yes.
doing this show.
But if you've been swimming with these sharks for years and years and you know their names and everything, why are you still talking to the sharks? Because they're still sharks. See, they didn't become your friends over that time period. They didn't become buddy and all that over that time period. They're still the sharks, and you are their prey.
I would say one of the things is that's why interrogation works so well. That's why law enforcement uses it, because they know there is an innate human desire to talk.
Yes, to tell your story.
And the officers want you, the detectives want you to do that. Sometimes, quite honestly, they don't even care that you're not telling them the truth.
Right.
They know that you're not telling them the truth.
Right.
They just want you to lie for the sake of lying so that can be used against you to point to the jury and say,
That's right.
this person's a liar. don't fall into that trap.
You don't want to drop CDs while you're in custody. Don't want to be making CDs and everything and records and stuff. And
I don't
while
think
you're
they
in
know. They
custody.
may not know what you mean. Why
Oh,
don't you go ahead and
ah,
because the CD is
well,
almost a thing of the past,
all
lawman.
right, fine. Well, all right. I come from the place of Mac Dre. All right, way back when he was doing music from prison, basically, and people do it now because they got cell phones and stuff. But what I'm saying is this: I'm in a case. We're about to go to trial. We're about to get to a point in time that's something very important about the case. I have my vision of what I'm doing and what has occurred, but I don't realize that my client has been talking every week and they've been recording these phone calls. And so they give you a CD that has about 50, 60 phone calls, and they're all 15 minutes long, and you don't know which one is the right song. But you better listen to the whole CD. You got to listen to the whole album to figure out whether it's a good song or not. And that's what I mean by dropping CDs, basically, from jail. Is that you have people, 15 minutes is a long time to talk. It really is sometimes. And people say all kinds of things, to their loved ones and things like that. But then there'll be those phone calls in between that'll be important because you have now admitted something or made a confession to something. And it's those that they really are going to use. And when we say use, here's what we're talking about is this. That statement will be allowed to be played in front of the jury, in front of you, and you can't really do anything about it. We will argue that it's hearsay, but one of the major exceptions to hearsay is an admission, uh, declaration against interest. Even you're saying something that would be against you, and you wouldn't do that unless it's true. So that's why those statements are always going to be played, always. So you got to be careful with dropping CDs by just phone call after phone call after phone call. And every one, you're talking about something. You're talking about the case. So I've seen it, and it just ruins things. Because at the very end, you go in trial and you want to be kind of, yeah, I got an angle. I got this. And then, oh, they just dropped the CD. Oh, what? Let's go listen to it. And then it ruins your day. So, you know, we've been playing in this game, Carm, gosh, since we were babies and stuff, well, babies in the law. Okay. We kind of grew together, learning together because we worked at the PD's office together and we went to law school together.
A long,
Yes.
long
Time ago. Right. But I think what we've done is we've taken everything, all of our experience, everything we've learned, and we're trying to now spit it out. We want people to know things about what's going to happen to you. Because I'll tell you, I've had everybody sit across from me. I don't care. Preachers, cops, right? Everybody can find themselves needing me at some point.
Everybody can find themselves in that what I call the hot seat, the
That's right.
defendant's chair. Everyone likes to think that it could never be them. Right? And or if it's not them, it could be their son, their daughter, their cousin, someone that they love and care about could be in that position.
Right. And they're worried. You're worried, and so I don't judge anyone as to what they're doing, why they're doing it, things like that. The beautiful part about having your lawyer is that you can actually tell us anything and everything, almost anything and everything. But the relationship between us and the client is designed so that it's secret. It is supposed to be in secret. That is the first place it should be.
It is your communications with us are confidential. Now, that being said, if I have a client that calls me from the jail and I accept the phone call, I am not going to have a discussion with that client at all about the details of their case, about defense strategy. That discussion is usually very short. I will tell them what days it is likely that I will come to visit them, and so that we can have that discussion in person.
Yeah, that's very important because what I see sometimes is I'll talk to my client about a strategy, about something, and they will talk to their family about what we talked about. And it's called piercing the veil. You know, between me and my client, man, we're veiled up and stuff, and you can't get inside. But when that happens, you've now pierced that veil and you put that information to anyone's ears.
because you violated that confidentiality. It only remains confidential if it stays between you and your attorney.
Correct.
And we understand that when you select an attorney, it has to be someone that you trust. Um, if you don't trust your attorney, you're not going to share
Believe in them.
information.
Yes.
You're not going to share information with them that you should, that might help them to develop your defense.
Well, you know, and now, you know, we're shifting a little bit, but I see we can go into an area here whereby we can talk about attorneys and a client relationships and how to build a good one with a person you don't even know, a person you look at. And what we hear all the time is that person, before I came and called my case, they were over here laughing it up with the DA and everything and hucka bucka hucka hucka and all this kind of stuff. I think they're with the DA. In fact, they're getting paid by the same people, the county. They must be the DA too, right? They're dump trucks. They're this. They're not even lawyers. People believe that. Not always, not always true. I'm not going to say that people aren't friendly, but generally, your lawyer has a duty to fight for you and only you. And there are ways that you can start fires under your lawyers and establish that first relationship, Carmi, right? I mean, wouldn't you walk in? What would you do if you I'm the lawyer, you come in, it was maybe a theft or something, you know, but I'm having that meeting with you. Okay. So, you know, I'm tired too. I'm tired. It's 4 o'clock. I've been meeting people all day. Okay. So here she is. This is a woman never been in trouble before. She's 39 years old, never in trouble, raised her kids on her own, very proud, and she's being accused of theft.
That's the role I'm playing.
That's your role today. Okay, hey, look here. I'm Chief. I got your case. I read the report. I sent you a copy of it. Did you get it?
I did get it, but I don't know if I can trust you.
Well,
I didn't hire you. You were appointed by the court. I
that's
don't even
right.
know what that means.
Look, you always got the right to go hire an attorney of your choice, and I understand if you can't afford one, that you know you're going to get someone like me.
Well, are you a private attorney or are you a public pretender?
Well, I like to say that we're public defenders, that we defend individuals from the charges that are brought.
Speak for yourself, sir. I'm stepping outside of character and speaking to the fourth wall. We are not public defenders. I'm not a public defender, and Mr. Staten is not a public defender.
Okay.
Playing we are private. We are private attorneys. We do private cases. We also do court-appointed cases, but we are private attorneys.
But for this scenario, I'm a public defender. You know, I shoot. My dad was a public defender. You know, I mean, I'm a liberal. You know, I go for the causes and things like that. I love helping.
Well, I didn't do this, and so how are you going to help me prove that I didn't do it?
Well, look,
I shouldn't even be here.
Well, but you're here, okay? And now that you're here, we have to do something about this. So look, I saw the report. I gave it to you. Did you see it?
I did see it.
And do you agree with everything in it?
No, it's a lie.
Well, now you just can't tell me it's a lie.
I'm telling you it's a lie.
Well, okay, what's a lie?
Everything's a lie. What they said, they said that I stole something. I never stole anything.
But you were found with the property.
Well, I didn't steal it.
Well, then how did you get it?
I purchased it.
Well, then where's your receipt?
Who keeps a receipt? That lady didn't even give me a receipt. I made my purchase. I walked out the store. You can check my credit card.
Well, well, I don't really want to look at your credit card, but I suggest, why don't you go get your statement to show that that item is on there?
And then when I show that, will you get this case dismissed?
Well, it just depends. I don't know. I mean,
so you're telling me I could have purchased an item lawfully and I could still be accused of the theft of that item because I can't produce the receipt?
You probably could, yes.
Well, that doesn't seem fair. I don't know what kind of laws your system has.
I'm not the chief over here trying to make everything fair. My job is defend you. To do that, I got to know something about you. I got to know what you did.
Well, what I'm telling you is I'm not a thief. So know that about me.
I'm not calling you a thief. I'm just saying that from what I see in the report, it's going to be very hard to win this case. And I suggest that, look, they're offering you a misdemeanor, 30 days.
So I see what this is. You just one of those attorneys who's just trying to plead people out. That's all you do. Sit here and plead people out.
That's not what I do.
I'm not pleading. I'm not pleading. I'm not pleading.
Look, I can't make you plead. All I can do is advise that this is a tough case to win. So if you just take the misdemeanor in 30 days,
I'm not doing that.
it's going to be probation. It's only going to be 1 year now.
I'm not doing that.
But you know, the alternative is going to trial. And right now it's filed as a felony.
Well, I'll take a felony. I'd rather be convicted of a jury for a felony I didn't do than to plead to a misdemeanor and say I did something that I know I didn't do.
But that don't make sense.
You don't want to see my you don't want to see my you don't want to see my credit card statement that proves that I purchased the item, Mr.
You can show it to me. I mean, it's got to match up.
And it's going to match up.
Okay, then go and you bring that in then. Okay?
That's what I'm going to do.
All right. Now, in case that doesn't match up, I want you to consider that misdemeanor offer, okay?
I'm not taking a misdemeanor. If I had done it, Mr. Staten, if I had done it, I would take a misdemeanor. Yeah. But I didn't do it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to believe in that, okay? And I mean, you get me that thing, and I'm going to run to the DA and say, look, she purchased that item. She didn't have a receipt. They should have asked her then, hey, it's on my credit card, because they could have went to the store and got it, the transaction, and saw that. But they didn't. You know, I've had cases at this store before. They're very harsh on people. I can tell you that sometimes the loss prevention individuals don't see everything. They don't catch everything. They got to come from cameras down below, and they may be off, and they get the wrong person or get a person who has bought something.
Well, legally. I even told the people when they detained me to go back and talk to the clerk that had worked for me, had ran my the transaction, and they told me that she had already left for her break or whatever, and that since I had the property, and they believed that it was stolen.
Yeah, and that's a bad policy on their part, but I can't control that part. My part is when you get to me, you get your warrior in court. My job is protect you in court.
And so I'm going to give you that, and you're going to protect me.
I'm going to do the best I can, because you know I can't work miracles and stuff now. I mean, I don't know what you expect, but you know,
I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm telling you I didn't do it. I'm telling you that my credit card statement will show I didn't do it, and I expect that you present that, and that should get them to dismiss this case. And if it doesn't, Mr. Staten, I want to go to trial. Don't I have a right to trial?
Oh, you've got a right to trial, but you also got to understand, look, right now it's a felony. And if you take it past preliminary hearing, they're going to take this offer off the table.
Are you telling me that I should plead to a misdemeanor when I'm telling you I didn't do it?
A misdemeanor is better than a felony.
But I didn't do it.
Okay. Sometimes, though, it's what they can prove. You know, I mean, if they come in and they can prove that, we're in trouble. I mean, you know, I
can't prove it because I'm telling you my credit card will show I purchased the item.
Are you going to be ready to testify? Can you take cross-examination from the DA?
I can.
All right. Well, I guess, you know, first, let's do one thing at a time. Look, go get the credit card receipt. Let me check it out. Let me let the DA know that they should check that out. And the store hopefully will have it on their rolls, because they should have kept all the receipts to match up that you actually walked out with that item purchased. And if that's the case, I think they should dismiss it. And if they don't, we're going to set that matter for trial.
Thank you, Mr. Staten. That's what
You're welcome, ma'am. Okay, so that ended okay. But most of the time they don't. You know, there's usually once it slides off the track and you don't trust the person because they didn't give you the police report. You know, they're just telling you to plead, not even paying attention to what she was saying. Go investigate. Go look at people. Go look at things, because the camera should have shown I bought the item even. And she's trying to tell me that I'm trying to tell her, oh, well, I don't have that. I don't want to investigate when they should. So One of the things that she does is she sticks to her guns, you see? And that's what you have to do. And if you have something, help your lawyer. Help them. Because I'll tell you, we see people, and you watch it all the time. The lawyer, they bring something up to the lawyer, and the lawyer quickly discounts it or says, nah, we can't get that in. That's not good evidence. Now, you're not an expert in the evidence code. So you don't know, how to get it in, but there's a way of getting it in. And sometimes the lawyers are lazy, where they don't want to go and do a lot of work.
Not Carmen B and
Not,
Lawman.
of course not. But sometimes they are because they have too many cases, and they'll bitch about that all the time.
He's talking about other attorneys.
People, yeah. And what we're talking about in general is your relationship with a lawyer that's appointed to you. Someone you don't know from Adam. You have nothing to do with them.
But you also have to be very proactive
Right.
in terms of
getting things done.
As when we did that skit right there, in terms of stating your position,
Right.
and getting the lawyer to hear what you are saying.
Yeah. And proactive doesn't mean yelling at them, calling them a bitch, and all this kind of stuff. Because you're antagonizing each other, and the relationship is pretty much it's going to die at that point, because you're not going to pull back the trust unless you both come together and agree that, hey, look, we got to work together no matter what. I'm sorry, you're sorry. Let's move forward.
And sometimes in cases, there'll be evidence where it looks like the person did it, right? As in this case here, as Mr. Staten was.
She's got the property, indicated. Came out the store.
Had the property, came out the store, and somebody at the store said she stole it, right? That isn't the end all, right? Sometimes there is investigation that can show that despite this evidence that looks like it was this particular person, it was not that person. I had a case where a spouse had committed a theft. She had used a vehicle that was registered to her and her husband. There was a man with her who looked very much like her husband. There was no direct camera view of his face, but he was the appropriate height, the appropriate complexion, and he was with her. And once the theft occurred and they were outside of the store and clerks attempted to stop the man, he actually struggled with them, which unfortunately elevated the crime and to the charge of robbery. The man got away and he was able to get into the car, which was registered to the husband and wife, and the wife drove away. Well, the husband actually got arrested for that crime and indicated, I did not do this. And so it turns out there was video that showed the outside altercation. And during that altercation, the male who was there and struggling with the clerks, his shirt was lifted up. And in just literally, it was just a matter of seconds, you see that he has back tattoos. The husband had no back tattoos, nary a one. And so clearly it was not him. But without having found that little clip of that video, and if I hadn't been watching carefully, could have missed it, it looked like he was the person. And it was possible that a jury would have convicted him. But finding that few seconds that showed that about the true culprit allowed the case against my client to be dismissed without having to proceed to trial, without having to proceed to preliminary hearing.
And Carmen's talking about what I call instinct. You have an instinct on dealing with the case before you. You know where to look. After so many years, we know where to look or where not to look because of instinct. We know something may be there, not there. Now, I just want to throw in some tips for you with the lawyer, okay? I would say the first thing when you're meeting that lawyer, definitely try to use sir and madam, okay? Just try to use that. We don't use it normally in our day-to-day conversations, but excuse me, sir. Hi, how are you doing? All right, ma'am. Nice to meet you. Because they'll notice that you're using it for sure.
And that probably is one of those tips that if you remember back, that your parents or your grandparents told you.
Right.
And that's about first impressions. You
Right.
want to make a good first impression. And you may think, well, that person's my lawyer. Why would I have to make any type of impression?
Right.
But that can play a part in how that person perceives you.
Yes.
Mr. Staten spoke earlier about how we don't make judgments about our clients. That's myself and that's Lawman, right?
Right.
We don't do that. We can't speak for everyone else that is out there. We know that something can happen to someone 5 minutes out of their life, and that does not define whether that person is a good person or a bad person. And so we don't make judgments about people in that particular way. We practice long enough that we know not to do that. Even if someone has committed a crime, that doesn't tell you whether or not that's a good person or a bad person.
Exactly.
That just tells you that's somebody that did something in that few minute space of time. It doesn't tell you about that actual person, who they are.
So it's always good to start off at least cordial, I mean, and you don't make sure you don't escalate it. That's all. Make sure you don't. But another tip. Now look at this. You have the right to all of your reports, to watch all videos and all evidence against you. That's your right to do that. A lot of lawyers, what we have to do is what we call redact reports, you see, which just means we have to take out names, addresses, and things like that. But they got programs, Adobe programs that do that very quickly. They got secretaries and that do that. I would suggest that you ask for all of your reports that you can have. And if there are videos to watch, because sometimes there's like 30 videos to watch or something, do you know you get to watch those things? So it may take time. You'll be sitting there with a clerk, but demand to see them. And that's the way that you also can now see what it is out there. Because of my third tip, there's something called the Crem jury instructions. Okay, CALCRIMM. Believe it or not, you can pay $450, $500 for a 2-set book of these Crems when you can actually get on Google and go, Crem 220, and you'll come up with the definition of what beyond a reasonable doubt is. Now, I'm going to let Carmen take over because I'm going to try that little trick. And the thing about Crems is this. They are the law that's given to a jury that a DA is responsible for proving. And they must prove all elements. They tell you everything in that Crem of what you must prove. And when you read further, they tell you how the court has to use that instruction, how there's lessers and things like that.
The entire Crem is available. You could print it if you want it for free on the California court website.
Yes. But if you Google,
but you
it
can
comes
download
right up.
But you could download it so you could have that for yourself. I think we've kind of gotten slightly off topic, and maybe what we will do is
those are my tips just on how to deal with your public defender.
We will do an entire show that talks about California criminal jury instructions,
and they're not important. I mean, when I train young lawyers, and I didn't know this when I came up, but that's the first place you should go when you hear about a crime or a case, and these are the charges. You should go get the Crems because that's going to educate you on what needs to be proven, and it saves you a lot of time, because now when you read the facts, you're reading them intelligently because you know what the Crem says that have to prove, and you read through and you don't find that, then maybe that's a problem with that element. And it generally is.
So that would be something to discuss with the attorney that's representing you.
And what it's showing, all of this is just showing your diligence. It's showing you care about your case. Because a lot of times, I'll tell you, some people are tired.
We have a question in the
Ah,
chat that asks the number for the call in. The number is 916-384-8204. And I'm sorry if we didn't state that earlier.
yeah,
Again,
thank you
that
for that.
number 916-384-8204.
All right. All right, keep going, Carm. I'm just gonna
Well,
see.
I think unfortunately, Lawman, we've come to the end of another
No,
show. Yes.
no. I wanna talk law, man, some more. All right, that was cheesy. That was I gotta admit that was cheesy, but it was quick. It's quick though, huh? All right.
So again, we will be here every Friday. We'll be here next Friday at 6 p.m. doing another show.
Yep.
Again, if you have questions,
Yeah.
feel free to email us
And we can
when
talk
we're
about
doing it
things.
live. Put it in the chat. As you can see, we don't always stay 100% on topic because if we get a question, it may take us down another route. We do have a phone call with a question, and we're going to go ahead and take that.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I have a question about the information that you're providing. Is it specifically for if you live in California, or are these like the advice that you're giving? Is it for any state that you're living in, please? Thank you.
Are you with me? Okay. It's when we're talking about the Constitution and your constitutional right, we're talking about something that's everywhere, the federal law. And every state has a constitution that pretty much mirrors the federal law. So, but what we're talking about when it comes to stops and dealing with police officers, some states have a different law sometimes about recording or something small and minor like that.
But when we're talking about your First Amendment right, when we're talking about
searches and seizures,
searches and seizures,
right to remain silent,
constitutional rights, that applies no matter what state you live in.
Exactly. So, and rights to jury trials. I mean, the difference between civil and criminal is civil can have less than 12 jurors, and I think Florida. Remember George Zimmerman in trial.
Florida, there are some states that have different rules in regards to the number of jurors that there are.
Yeah, so those rules can switch around, but the constitutional principles apply everywhere. Definitely. And just to tell you, I put in Crem, merely CALCRIMM, and it brings up the jury instructions. And all of them.
Now, the jury instructions, I would state, are going to be those are only for California.
Yes.
So when we're talking about the jury instructions, those are specifically for
California law.
Each state will have their own set of jury instructions.
Right. Because each state can define what a crime is, and so that's why they can write laws about what are crimes. So that's why they would differ, though.
Have we answered your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you, and I love the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell your friends.
Will do.
All right.
Well, I think, unfortunately, lawman and criminal.
Okay. Well, Carm, let's see. What should we talk about next week?
I don't know. Maybe we should leave it up to
people.
We should leave it up to the callers. Maybe we should make the next episode a wild card.
Yeah.
All call in, all email questions, and we will answer them.
Yeah, like how to dress when I go to court. Or something like that.
And we would like to think that everyone would know that, and that
they don't.
As a society, there's been a lot of relaxation of the rules. But what you have to remember is when you're appearing in front of someone who can make decisions about your life, about whether you get a misdemeanor or a felony, or whether you go to get a jail sentence, or whether you go to prison, you want to present your best possible look.
Right.
Best face forward.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean cut your hair. You see, or anything like that. Nothing drastic. It's just you were presentable. You care. It just shows that you care. This is something that you didn't crawl out of bed and just decided to put your house shoes on and run down to court, which we see a lot.
Unfortunately.
Sweatsuits and stuff and Yeah. But I get
My
it.
clients know I instruct. You need to, if you're a male, you need to either have on a suit, or if you don't have a suit, because we realize everybody
Slacks and
doesn't have
shirt.
a suit, a dress
Yep.
shirt and dress slacks.
Yeah.
And I've even helped clients obtain those before, because I feel that is an important fact, and it can play a factor.
And that's funny. You bring up a good point. I actually have a whole closet full of clothing that I keep myself. The public defender's office has a bigger closet of clothing because when you're in custody, we have to dress our clients.
I actually have. I don't use the public defender's
I don't use it. That's why I got
closet.
my own.
And I buy my own clothes. I buy them for the client, so I want them to know that I care and that they realize that they're special.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, I've seen so many situations. I've had clients who fail, who don't want to dress up, so they want to be in the orange. You know, and there's, you kind of can't force anyone, but you know, it does. It plays. It just, you present yourself better, because I'll tell you something. Forget about me, the judge, and the DA. When you are in trial, you're impressing the jury. That's who you're talking to. Those are the only people you want to know who you are when you're speaking.
Well, I would add that the judge counts as well, because if you are convicted, he's going to decide what your sentence should be.
Sure.
And just as a matter of pride, there's certain
Oh, another
situations
question.
where certain dress
All right. You got
matters.
another question? Oh. Oh, okay. Perfect. Oh, somebody asked about the call too.
All right. So, lawman, I think that that is going to
That gonna
be
wrap
it
it
for
up?
tonight.
Okay, so I think we said, if you got a subject matter or questions and things that you want to throw out there for us, throw it out there, and we'll deal with it on air.
We'll address it next Friday.
All right.
All right, lawman.
Well, today, let's see. Who should we be thankful for? We've lost a lot of actors and actresses in the last, months and stuff. Cicely Tyson and is one that comes to mind. A lot of great people have gone. And so every show, I want, we want to honor some people, and we want to just shout out that we gotta keep our national treasures, and honor individuals who are older. This is a tough time for people who are older right now.
And
Whether it's isolation, or just the disease that's out there.
and I would like to actually just state in remembrance of one of our very best friends, Christopher Brooks, lost his father recently, Mr. Clarence Brooks. And we just want him and his family to know that they are in our prayers.
And we're thinking of them. And that's how we support each other.
That's definitely how we have to do it.
All right.
All right. We're ending another episode.
Thank you for hanging with us
with Lawman and Carmen B. Thank you.